Time to finish up the original Nightmare on Elm Street series with Wes Craven's New Nightmare. The concept of this film alone is just awesome. I have to believe that it was inspired by Lucio Fulci's Cat in the Brain. If you haven't checked out Fulci's work yet, you need to. The Beyond is amazing, okay? He has so many great films. House by the Cemetery, City of the Living Dead, Zombie, Don't Torture a Duckling. The list goes on and on. New York Ripper. So, let's talk about this movie, though. I'll go on about that all day. I will do a Fulci fest soon enough. But let's stick to this film. Now, I'm not a big fan of dream fake-outs. I've said that in many videos throughout my time doing this, but they are very expected within this franchise, and so I never get that annoyed when I see them here. I actually lived in Northridge for a couple years of my life when I was a kid, and we moved right before the Northridge quake happened. So we just missed it. So seeing that the Northridge quakes are part of the aftershocks in this movie was taking me back. This movie also brings up an interesting thought for me about how celebrities or actors or people who were in horror movies in the past, even for one movie offs, but especially if it's a super popular franchise like a Nightmare on Elm Street or a Friday the 13th or whatnot, and you're like a titular character like Nancy, your kids wanting to watch your movies and showing interest in that and being like, you can't watch my movies. Like, but mom, I want to see your movies. Dad, I want to see your movies. And you're just like, you can't watch them yet. So, and we as horror fans, most of us snuck out to watch horror movies at 5, 6 years old. And I can only imagine if my mom or like a parent or someone I knew very well was in them, of course I would want to watch them. So the fact that her kid is watching her movies in this, it's just like, I bet that happens. She has to own a copy, I'm sure. Heather Langenkamp looks freaking great in this movie. She aged very well. Although, it's only like 10 years since the first one, and she was only like 20 in the first one. So she's like, only 30 here? So she better look good. But you never know. Some people don't look all that great after 10 years. Some stars. Watch frickin' the Night of the Demons remake with Edward Furlong. Holy shit, that dude looks rough in that movie. And I love that her little kid is the kid from Kindergarten Cop. Boys have penises, girls have vaginas. Anytime I see that kid, I just instantly laugh out loud because of that line. Mr. Kimball, Mr. Kimball. And the limo guy that calls up Heather Langenkamp is a dick. He really needs to check his little list there and make sure that his talent, the people that he's picking up, aren't big names, because that guy's going to get fired. Fired. You are all my children now. I'm so glad they brought this line back, because that is my favorite line in this entire series. So to hear it again in this movie was just great. I don't know. It almost gives some recognition to Nightmare on Elm Street 2, the movie that everyone seems to hate but me and some awesome people. Although I feel like it's starting to kind of get like a cult status to it, so I'm cool with that. It's just, when he said it, I was like, yes! It's a line from Nightmare 2, thank you. It's awesome. The non-actors in this movie, Wes Craven and Robert Shea and people like that, I thought they did good. Especially Robert Shea. I don't think he's probably ever done anything before, and I thought his performance in this was fine. It didn't feel like, a sports actor. Holy fuck, man. Please stop casting sports people in movies. They're always awful. Always. Have you ever seen an NBA player in a movie? Oh my god, it's just dreadful. But Robert Shea, not bad at all. When Rex, his dog, gets torn up, Julie goes to stitch him up, and she does the shittiest job I've ever fucking seen in my life. There's just like fluff hanging out of it. It's like all just like, it looks like it was stitched by Freddy. It is bad. She's a terrible seamstress. She does not. She needs to take on more babysitting roles because she is not going to make it in that field. We also get John Saxon back here and Rod Lane, which he's just at the funeral for like a half a second. We don't even get nothing from him, and I thought that was kind of lame. I was like, oh man, I'd love to see Rod more. How lame. He doesn't even get to say like hi. He doesn't get to step in front of the camera and say anything. That's pretty lame. When Heather's kid is able to get out of the grate at the top of that rocket at the play yard, he gets on top of there. Like, really? There's just a little open grate on the top that a kid can open up and climb up there? Bullshit. No fucking way. But that's a great visual scene, I think. Like, when he's up there and he's putting his arms out, it's really sad too, because I feel like he's trying to get to his dad. Like, God wouldn't take me. Like, I want to go see my dad. I feel like they could have played on that emotion a little more. Like, you know, like I was trying to see daddy or something. They don't mention it, but you kind of just have to surmise that is what he's doing. And when you do it makes you sad. I like that he tapes knives to his fingers when he comes at her. I know a lot of people are down on this kid's acting. I thought he was fine. There's places where I think he's really good, and I think there's other places where he's like a 7-year-old, 8-year-old kid, and he's not going to be able to have that much range. But for a kid this age, overall, I think he did pretty damn well, so shut the fuck up. Lynn Shane comes back here. She doesn't play herself in this movie, but she plays a nurse. So it's cool to see her, but it's kind of like, huh. But that being said, something that I really liked about this movie too is that a lot of later entries in series and remakes and things like that, they always throw homages in to previous installments, especially the original, the first one. And this movie does that, but it's part of the plot line. Like, it actually plays into it. Like, the homages in this film actually have a role in the movie, because as the film starts to progress, it starts to morph into an actual film that she becomes Nancy in. So all those scenes that are, mimicking scenes from a previous film actually kind of make sense to the story being told here, since when she starts this journey, it starts to morph into A Nightmare on Elm Street. So I like that. I like that it wasn't just there to be like a wink to the audience. And I like that they bring back Nancy's gray hair. And that when Freddy comes out of her, into her dream the first time, and we get that real first encounter, which is almost like an hour into the movie. It's a long time into the movie. He calls her Nancy, doesn't call her Heather. So he sees her as Nancy. And I thought that was an interesting spin, because the way that this movie has it set up is that, and there's so many different ways to take this, and I was trying to think about it after I finished it, like, because at the end of the movie, she vanquishes him, burns him up in the fire, and he turns into what looks like a demon or the devil. And it's almost like they're suggesting that this is a sleep demon that Wes Craven dreamt about, created and put into a movie, which kept him at bay and wasn't allowing him to come into people's dreams anymore. And once they killed Freddy in part 6, he and as the time had passed for a couple years, and the fandom had died down and the movies had stopped being made, that he was able to come out again. But was he Freddy? Or did he take the appearance of Freddy once the films were made? Or did he take the appearance of Freddy in Wes's dreams because that's what Wes was afraid of, and that's what we saw on screen. So then when he comes back, that's what role he's taken on from that point, and that's why we see him like that, and then he morphs into his true, real sense. So that's the first time we ever really see what Freddy actually looks like. The Freddy that had been stalking Wes Craven before he wrote A Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984. I thought that was just an interesting thing to break down and kind of, see what Wes was trying to say when he turned him into a demon-looking thing. So, yeah. Now, we bring back 1428 Elm Street again. I mean, she comes outside with John Saxon. He's playing her father in this moment, and then she turns around and we see the house from reserve. So all 7 films have this house in it, which it's become a character, and it is the only thing besides Robert Englund that comes back for every single film. So that's almost a character in itself. And we get the blue door back on the house. It was red through all the rest of the movies, but because this was the first film that it took it back to, we get the blue door back. So I thought that was pretty cool. And her following the sleeping pill breadcrumbs, I mean, it's symbolic, and I liked it because they're playing off the Hansel and Gretel storyline. But her, she took 10 sleeping pills in that. So did she actually take 10 sleeping pills? Because if she did, she ain't ever waking up. And maybe that's to suggest she's still asleep at the end. But we get a happy ending at this, and it's like, your husband's still dead. Those friends of yours are still dead. There's people that are still dead. But, whatever. She got her kid back, so she is kind of happy. And I think that's it. I think I went through everything. So, all right, guys. There are things that I'm not a huge fan of. I feel like the final confrontation scene, when she is sliding down through the bed and she comes out this open mouth of a Freddy head. I thought that was kind of silly. And the look of when she's falling just looks poor. It's really bad, composite or maybe even CGI, because there's some shitty CGI in this. Freddy's new look, I like it okay. I don't know about the leather pants. His glove is bone and part of his hand now. It's okay. It looks a little fake. I don't know. Maybe if it looked more real bone and real hand, it would have looked better. I don't know. The look was wishy-washy. I like that he was wearing a trench coat and a darker hat and whatnot. I thought that looked pretty cool. But as I said, the final confrontation scene, I just felt like that could have been better. It felt fairly lackluster. She just goes down into his demon lair, and it just is very quick and convenient. He traps himself in this, and he lets them push him in the furnace and let him burn him. I don't know. It all just felt cheap and rushed. So there's stuff like that, and then there's other little things that I could pick apart throughout the movie, but those are nitpicky things, and I'm not huge on those. But overall, I'm a fan. I definitely enjoy this movie. It's a fuckload better than the last one, and I like it better than Dream Child as well. So I would put this within the first 4, which I really, really enjoy. It would be somewhere in that area. So yeah, this is fun to go back and rewatch. It's been a little while since I've seen it, and I had a good time with it. And I always love to see. I love to see Robert Englund playing Robert Englund and Heather Langenkamp playing Heather Langenkamp. All that stuff. It's just really, really fun as a fan of the series. So anyway, guys, time to get on over to that remake.